Some of the strongest people feel the most lost after retirement. Not because they are weak, not because they are ungrateful, and not because they suddenly forgot how to live. They feel lost because they spent a lifetime being needed. They were the ones who showed up, the ones who carried responsibility, the ones people counted on, the ones who kept going even when they were tired. And then one day, the job ends. The schedule disappears, the calls slow down, and the role that once gave life structure is suddenly gone. That kind of loss is hard to explain, because what many people miss after retirement is not just the work. It is the feeling that they still mattered every single day. A lot of people imagine retirement as freedom. No alarm clock, no deadlines, no pressure. Finally, time to rest. And at first, that may sound wonderful, but for many strong, responsible people, retirement does not feel like freedom right away. It feels strangely unfamiliar. The days get longer, the mornings feel less clear, the house gets quieter. And somewhere in that quiet, a hard question begins to rise. Who am I now? That question can be especially painful for people who built their identity around duty. If you were the provider, the problem solver, the caretaker, the manager, the one who always held everything together, retirement can feel like more than a life change. It can feel like an identity shock, emotional connection, and that is the part many people do not talk about. Because strong people often do not say, "I feel lost." They say things like, "I'm just not myself lately. I thought retirement would feel better than this. I have time now, but I don't feel right. Something feels off." What they may really mean is this: "I no longer know where I fit." That feeling can bring a kind of quiet grief. Not grief for a person who died, but grief for a version of yourself that used to feel solid, useful, and clear. The version of you who woke up with purpose. The version people relied on. The version who knew exactly what needed to be done. And now, even if your life looks fine from the outside, something inside feels unsettled. You may not miss the stress. You may not miss the pressure. You may not even miss the job itself. But you may deeply miss the feeling of being needed. And that hurts more than most people realize. When work ends, it does not just remove activity, it removes structure. And structure does more for us than we think. It tells us when to wake up, where to go, what matters today, who needs us, what role we play in the world. Without that structure, emotions that stayed buried for years can start to rise. Loneliness, regret, distance in a marriage, silence from grown children, fear of aging, questions about purpose. A sense that life is moving on without you. That can be overwhelming, especially if you have always been the strong one. Because when you are used to being everyone else's rock, it can feel almost shameful to admit that you are the one drifting now. You may even think, "I've handled harder things than this. Why is retirement hitting me so hard?" But retirement is hard in a different way. It does not always wound the body. It wounds identity. It asks you to live without the role that once explained who you were. And that is why even very capable, disciplined, resilient people can feel deeply disoriented after retiring. In fact, sometimes the stronger the person was, the harder this transition becomes. Because strong people often gave so much of themselves to responsibility that they had very little time to ask a deeper question: who am I when I am no longer carrying everyone else? That is not weakness. That is what happens when a life of duty suddenly becomes a life of open space. So if this season has felt emptier than you expected, please hear this. There is nothing wrong with you. You are not failing at retirement. You are adjusting to a loss that many people never name correctly. This is not just boredom. This is not laziness. This is not ingratitude. This may be grief. Grief for routine. Grief for identity. Grief for the role that gave your days meaning. And once you understand that, something important changes. You stop judging yourself so harshly. You stop telling yourself to just be positive. You stop pretending a few hobbies should magically fix everything. And you begin to see that what you really need is not just something to do. You need a new way to feel connected to your own worth. Gentle solutions or reflections. Now, that does not mean you need to reinvent your whole life overnight. This is not about becoming a different person. It is about slowly building a new relationship with purpose. And sometimes that begins very simply. It begins by asking, where am I still needed in a healthy way? What part of me is still alive, even without the old title? What strengths did retirement not take away? Because retirement may have taken your schedule. It may have taken your position. It may have taken the daily proof that you were useful. But it did not take your wisdom. It did not take your steadiness. It did not take your ability to comfort, guide, notice, encourage, protect, or show up. Those parts of you still matter. Very often, purpose in later life does not come back looking the way it used to. It may not come with a paycheck. It may not come with status. It may not come with a title on a door. It may come through a quiet phone call, a grandchild who feels safe with you, a neighbor who trusts your advice, a friend who needs someone steady, a church group, a volunteer role, a handwritten note, a small routine that gives your day meaning again. And yes, sometimes purpose begins even smaller than that. Sometimes it begins with finally telling the truth. This transition has been harder than I expected. That sentence alone can open a door, because healing often begins when shame ends. If you have felt lost after retirement, that does not erase the strength you have carried all your life. It may actually prove how much of yourself you gave. You are not weak because rest feels uncomfortable. You are not broken because silence feels heavy. You are not ungrateful because retirement did not feel the way people promised it would. You are human, and human beings were never meant to live only by productivity. But many good people were taught exactly that. So now this season may be teaching you something new. Your value was never only in what you produced. Your worth was never only in how much you carried. And your life did not end when your role changed. It simply entered a chapter where meaning has to be found differently, more gently, more honestly, more personally. And that takes time. So be patient with yourself. You are not starting over from nothing. You are learning how to live as someone still valuable, even without the old uniform, the old title, or the old routine. That is not the end of purpose. That is the beginning of a deeper one. If this spoke to something you have been carrying quietly, I hope you know you are not alone. And if retirement has left you feeling a little lost, a little off, or unsure of where you fit now, there is nothing shameful about that. Please leave a comment and share how this season has felt for you. Even a few honest words may help someone else feel less alone. And if you want more conversations like this, gentle, honest, and made for people walking through this stage of life, subscribe and come back for the next video. Because you still matter. more than you think. And it is not too late to build a life that feels meaningful again.